So we have, first of all, Ling Chen. And Ling Chen is a Senior Program Manager at Microsoft in China, at Microsoft's Open Technology Center. Then we have Casey Taniguchi-san. He's the General Manager, Corporate Strategy, Marketing Headquarters for Yokogawa Electric Corporation in Tokyo. So he's come all the way from Japan for this event. And then on the left of Casey, we have Jory Guzman. Jory is with Siemens, where he's the Director, Product Management, Factory Automation in Singapore, and responsible for the Southeast Asia region. So that's the basic introduction of the three panelists, and feel free to say more about yourselves if you need to, before you answer the first question. That's fine. But I think we'll make a start. So we've heard some things today about where we are in deployments versus where we should be. And I think over the last few years, we've supposedly moved from IoT basic awareness, some concepts, to IoT products and projects. And if you go down to the exhibition hall downstairs, there must be a lot of IoT products, because there's a lot of companies exhibiting versus 2 years ago at least. So there are things going on. But my question is really, are we seeing IoT deployments at the rate you expect, or you would have expected by now? Is it actually happening out in the real world? I start with Jory, if you want to make a start.
Hello. Yeah. Okay. I didn't expect that one. I thought you were going like that.
I'd like to give a surprise. Yeah.
All right. So I have to start. The deployment of IoT, for example, we have made a lot of awareness of IoT for the past few years, but at the rate it is going, I think it is not what I have expected personally. Why is that? Southeast Asia, as I've been going around Southeast Asia, I think we all know that Southeast Asia is an end user country. We are the end users in these developments. So the development is mainly coming from Europe or from America, and it does dictate the pace for these technologies to come in. So if it starts in Europe or in the US, then definitely it will trickle down to us as an end user. So the deployment of IoT in our region, it's not as rapid as what we would have expected. Yeah. Number one, the infrastructure has to be there. The government has to be supportive of these actions. But I think we can elaborate more on that later on. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Casey?
The expansion rate is not yet met our expectation, of course. However, the depths of the discussion with the customer, the early adopters customers, are kind of deep and in good shape. So I think we're in a very good stage of learning curve so far. So I think that's good. That's good enough for the different aspects of expectation. And then also we see lots of IoT implementation in Japan with specific customers. I can share with you a little bit later. And that is kind of a key area that we can learn a lot of customer feedback, and what is the value proposition is, right? It's not only about the technology, but the business value is out there. So I think it's really in a good shape.
Okay, Ling Chen?
Yeah, I think I want plus one to the two gentlemen. I think the deployment of IoT really depends on which vertical areas they are talking about. In some vertical areas, I already see surprising numbers. For example, the wearable. If you see the wearable bracket, smart bracket, or in China mainland, we are selling like the 10 million smart brackets every year. So every of them connect to the network. So the number is surprising. But if we talk about more B2B business, I'm thinking maybe largely because the infrastructure is not ready. So like when if you want to sell a bike, you have to make sure the road is there, ready to riding the bike. So what I'm seeing there for the B2B business, people are making the construction of for example, the networking, the chipset, the cloud service, the modules. So a lot of different infrastructures are being built. So I may be a little bit more optimistic to what's happening to the industry.
Okay, thank you. So it seems to be not quite there to the level we expect, but still a lot of potential. So we often hear about the various barriers to adoption and deployment. Commonly things like standards, security, often comes up, privacy. But when you talk to your customers, is there one thing that they always say why they're reluctant to adopt IoT? Jory, is there something they always say to you?
Yeah, it's IoT is they are aware of IoT, but they have a lot of reservations. Number one would be the budget. The budget that they say, it's always about an issue of the budget. We are already fine with what we have. They don't see they are only looking at a very like 3 to 5 years benefit. They're not really looking into the bigger picture, which is probably having to connect everything together and making a very flexible manufacturing, or in a smart city, a very connected city. Budget is one, and the other one, which is what they mention all the time, is security. So sometimes, do you want to be an island, or do you want to be a very connected series of islands? Because security is a main concern. If I open it up, if I open up myself to the others, then I have to safeguard what I have. Is the benefit of opening up myself greater than maybe somebody stealing or somebody hacking into my system? That's another concern. Also, there must be common protocols. Common protocol gateways are another concern, because somebody is developing a system here, and then to be able to open it up to the others. So you must have this common gateway. And these gateways sometimes become hindrance to the others, for it to be open to the others.
So something like security, when they mention that, are you able to ease their concerns?
Security, we always say security starts at the gate. It is not only on the device itself. There are other, we need to fulfill some other levels of security. For example, physical security. It has to start at the gate, the people access, and then now you move slowly and closer to the device security itself. So there are different levels to the security, and we always tell them, security, if you take a look at what you have right now, are you feeling secure with what you have right now? Because if you are, then you are okay probably with IoT, with the interconnectivity of things. But if you are not, if you are still insecure and still want to be an island, then probably we have to make better steps for security to happen.
Okay. Casey, the biggest barrier, is there a biggest barrier that you come across when you talk to people?
Yeah, actually, from my perspective, you know, of course, the device protocol and the security are the issues, but I think the biggest thing is the customer mindset. You know, in the customer situation, you know, those IT guys and OT guys and then the board tend to be siloed and then don't talk to each other. And then that is a very hard barrier to realize the IoT type of solutions and then applications. And also, if you talk about security, you know, it's not really about device security and not about network security, but also, you know, entire security as a company. So in that perspective, also the organizational silence is the kind of the wall to be cracked.
Ling Chen?
I think again, the security and the data privacy things really depends on which area, vertical areas of IoT you are talking about, and it's also some relationship with even the culture. For example, maybe Western countries has more emphasis on privacy, personal privacy, but China mainland may have less concern on that. People just open to some of the private data. But so we discover we do find a lot of different customers have different flavors on the security. But what I can say is that largely speaking, security is not the number one concern from customer. Instead, ROI, the feature, the functionalities, what can really the business value can provide to a customer is always the number one consideration. But then for sure, you have to have some trust to give your customer to pass a certain threshold to guarantee they trust your service has enough security, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Just expanding on that, what Casey mentioned about the organizational issue. So, Jory, when you go into companies, do you see any conflict between, say, the IT people that maybe are involved in the project and the OT and the manufacturing side of the business?
Well, it's on the manufacturing plants, for example. It's always a question because, for example, a very good example would be IP addresses. Allocation of IP addresses to the manufacturing plant. This is controlled by the IT people. And sometimes these projects are on hold. Why? Because IT cannot just provide these IP addresses. And so they have to be clever in saying, okay, I will just probably put a gateway or a router in between just to address all of these IP issues on the plant floor level. But having said that, I think that there should be a cooperation between the IT and the operational people. Number one is that the infrastructure for IT has to be taken over by IT. That's correct. Because the security, this cannot be done by the production people. But the KPI, or the data that is being produced from the manufacturing plant, this has to be taken care of by the operational people. These are their KPIs. These are the production data that they have to have. And these are the important things which will run their production day by day. So operational people will be cooperating with IT. They need to be cooperative with IT because of the infrastructure. And the IT also has to provide that infrastructure to the operational people. There should be a cooperation between the two.
Casey, so considering IoT is quite broad, do you think there should be more differentiation between the B2C environment and the B2B environment? Is that important?
Yes, from a security point of view, it's different, and then also the operational point of view, it's different. So I think we need to divide into IoT and IIoT as a separate thing, and then consider how to collaborate to each other. So that way, we can ensure customer benefit can be secured for each of those solutions, right?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with this. And to plus one, because I'm personally being involved in some of the security compliance activities for Microsoft Cloud. So our experience shows that for the IT guys, they actually take care of the security issues like the code, the upgrading, the features, the visual scanning, all those the services. But the operation guys need to take up the procedure. You need to lock the door. They need to guarantee nobody can enter into data without authority, without permission. Okay, that's really so. Actually, if you look at the security compliance procedures for example, for cloud, public cloud, there's a strict process and work separation between the IT guys and operation guys. They are closely collaborated together.
Okay. Just picking up on the business benefits or the perhaps unclear business benefits of IoT. I mean, when you embark on an IoT project, you need to spend on hardware, software, services. But to what extent have we developed adequate financial models to accurately capture the return on investment that can be obtained from an IoT project? Is that something which is lacking? Does anybody want to pick that up?
Yeah, for example, for us, we always have to educate. It all depends on how you explain things on the benefits of IoT. For example, when you talk about faster time to market, that product has to be there within 90 days, for example. It has to be there within 90 days. Otherwise, you lose the market. You lose a considerable amount of market share. Faster time to market, flexible. It has to be that your system is flexible. It cannot just make one product or service. Because if you are tied to this one, you will be at the losing end. It has to be flexible. If this is the product that you need to do, later on, if you change specifications that you need to do another product, it has to be that that line can still do that particular product as well. So it's all about customized mass manufacturing now, and it's not just about mass manufacturing. So flexibility in manufacturing, faster time to market, and of course, optimization of your resources. Energy management, people handling, etc. People resources management. Yeah.
And you will help customers to develop those kind of justifications?
Yeah, so with the customers, we try to explain, okay, if this is your way, it has to be that the system that we will design together would be flexible enough to accommodate all of the variants of your products. Because right now, we are not just manufacturing, nobody is manufacturing just one line, just one kind of product. There are now a lot of varieties of the same product. Yeah. And services as well. Not only on product, but services. So we teach them that the system has to be flexible, and that with this flexibility comes your faster time to market as well.
Okay. Yeah. Casey, so on this question of how to better justify projects so they get through the...
Yep. IoT itself has a kind of a buzzword flavor. So people think IoT as a kind of a new things and a new solutions that requires bunch of sensors to be placed. But it's really not, right? It's really not. You know, if customer has DCS, then customer already has millions of sensors connected too, right? And then the reality is in the DCS, like less than 10% of those data has been used, and the rest was just wasted. But if customer want to, they can leverage that data source, put into the cloud, and then have some analysis architecture out there, and then put the result back into DCS. That way, customer can minimize the expenditure, and then maximize the result. So I think it's kind of really easy to justify if you talk about IoT.
Ling-Shen, but maybe you could include some comment about the smart cities, about justifying for the smart city area.
Yeah, but actually I want to talk about some of the my first-hand information when I talk with IoT partners. Actually, I will not name them, but they are leading manufacturers in China. Maybe even the world, the number one in the world. So they talk about the investment that the IoT is very interesting, is because those traditional manufacturers, they used to invest everything. For example, since you talk about cloud, those partners actually they start from investment on data centers. Instead of looking for there's a plan for cloud, public cloud, private cloud solutions, they start from scratch to build their own. So what my point here is, if you look at any IoT solution, they start from device, start from data analytics, from networking, from everything. So if the company want an IoT scenario, but they want investment on everything, there will be a big challenge for their for example, go-to-market, time to market issue, right? So so my point here is the company, when they do the investment on IoT, they need to figure out what's the best the most the part they have the strongest companies on. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We have the pigeon. Okay, we have a pigeonhole which you may have seen earlier today. So questions from the audience. So this one has come up about the government and the role of the government. Various government initiatives to promote the Internet of Things, but we had obviously the minister speaking this morning. But I wonder actually how useful are these in accelerating the deployment that we're looking for? Should the governments be doing more, doing less, and also the regulatory authorities? What is their role? So this question about state intervention and facilitating IoT. Jory?
Okay, I'll take that one.
Yeah, sure.
All right. The promotion of government for IoT, to accelerate the deployment. Okay. If I go around Southeast Asia, I think we are all in agreement that Singapore is the most advanced country here in Southeast Asia. So, what has Singapore done for Internet of Things or smart cities? Number one is he has fixed his infrastructure. The infrastructure and the platform is there. Number two, he attracts the talents, that it is everything, all the resources are here. And also number three is that the subsidies or the help in the development of such technologies, he is also supporting and giving this. If you have heard about the budget 2016 just recently, I think it was just last week, you know that a big chunk of the budget is also into the automation, will be poured into the automation in the industries. And number two is that it also goes into the National Robotics Program. These are things which Singapore is getting ready with for the future. He is way above. If you take a look at the other countries in Southeast Asia, the infrastructure is not there. How can we talk about Internet of Things when you cannot even watch a full YouTube video, for example? This is an example in which the government is playing a significant role, has to play a significant role in the deployment of all of these technologies in their countries.
Casey, maybe you can answer this question with some reference to Japan, if you
Yeah,
like.
actually, the infrastructure would be the key. You know, government does some messaging and the promotions and the fund, of course, but the most important thing is the real implementation on their infrastructure platform would be the key. Anyway, you know, these governmental infrastructure has to have the first implementation in the country. And, you know, of course, Japan has been done a lot of things in the past, but for the those Asian countries like Jory mentioned, you know, the lead initiatives by the government would be some kind of start of everything on IoT. So.
Ling Chen, maybe you want to reference China in your reply?
Yeah, sure. So what I know is China government has do several things on promoting IoT. First of all, for sure, the investment. I'm talking about funding, money, direct investment. Let's take the smart city for example. There are investments on the some of the projects I am personally involved. For example, to offer IoT cloud service, which allowed any startup companies to connect their devices to cloud, so to shorten the time to market. And there's also other efforts like the to promote standards, to increase the interoperability between device to cloud, device to device, and cloud to cloud. So that's really helped the market to avoid you reinventing the wheel, right? So I'm thinking that's largely is working in the right direction to accelerate the deployment. And talk about the second question is, should the government and regulation authorities be doing more? I'm thinking yes, at least in the to boost the market point of view. I'm expecting the government can invest more on the IoT industry, especially if you think about most of the IoT companies, they are startups. So if they can get the first contract with the government, it really helps for them to grow longer, to live longer in the market, right? Until they can get the second deal, right? And another thing is talking about the regulatory authorities. I'm talking about the national standards, right? If they can, currently the China government is encouraging to having the community and the industry have a more industry alliance, even though like the community, right? For example, I'm coming from the OSIN China community. I'm also the OSIN Alliance, a speak person in China. So I'm seeing there's a huge community activities happen every month. For example, people from different IoT industries, some from wearables, some from home automation, some from the smart building guys sitting together talking about how to share the common technology, how to build the business case. That's really exciting.
So does China have anything similar to Singapore, or like Smart Nation? Is there anything similar, or is it? I guess it will be more at the city level. Is there something that?
Yeah, we actually have what we call a smart city initiative. It's a government initiative. So we are talking about it's 20 billion RMB investment. So like 30 billion US dollars investment in the next 5 years. So the investment cover most of the IT infrastructures, right? The networking, the cloud service, storage, all those things. It's also by itself is a huge market,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is another question from Pigeonhole about Singapore's economy has to be very state-led. Do you think the strong state is an advantage when it comes to implementing IoT solutions? Maybe I could frame that in terms of, for you, Jory, being in Singapore, has the Smart Nation helped you in your quest to roll out your initiatives related to IoT?
Yeah, I think the government is doing its best to bring all the technology together because Singapore is an island. It's a very small state as compared to the others, but it is a very strong state because he has to have all these technologies as compared to the Western world. If all of these technology will trickle down to Asia, he will be the first one to be there. He wants to be in that position, I think. That's my opinion for this one. So, do I think this will have to change the state-led for Singapore? I think Singapore is doing right in supporting all of the SMEs and also the bigger companies, because if you put it in their own hands, then maybe they're not strong enough to develop further. But if with the help of the state of Singapore, number one is financially, and number two is also to attract the other talents worldwide to come here, then with these two factors, I think Singapore is making it right to develop all of these SMEs to be better in the future, to be like future-proof.
And like you say, the fact that Singapore has a very advanced ICT infrastructure is a huge enabler for
yeah, it's a huge enabler because the infrastructure. When I first came here in 2007, I was amazed because everywhere you go, there's just internet, and it's not only internet; it was a fast internet. And not anywhere in the world have I experienced that one. Even if I go to the US, to the Europe, these are not the internet speed which you have here. And but that's internet speed is only one factor. But just as an example, I would use that one. If I go to Europe, I would miss Singapore. Number one is because of the internet speed. Definitely, that's like 10 times. Here is 10 times faster than over there. Yeah. So that in itself is a testament that this government is serious about developing what it has right here.
Outside of Singapore, is there a perception maybe in Japan or China of what Singapore is doing? Do people know about Smart Nation?
Actually, this is just my opinion, but in the past, U.S. and in Japan had no answer to how to do what to do in the past, and then Americans and then Japanese have been struggled a lot, and somehow got into the kind of one results, right? But nowadays, having an internet connection and all the informations, Singapore have chosen the right way, I believe, because there is a kind of one answer is there, so there's no need to go around and have some struggle, but just go straight ahead to the result. So I think that way, all the Asian country can keep up to speed, and then they can even go far away, more on the cutting edge. So I think that's a good direction.
Right. Okay. Ling Chen, I know 20, 25 years ago, China liked to learn from Singapore and what Singapore was doing.
Exactly.
But maybe that's not the case anymore.
I think it's still now.
Still the case?
Yeah, still the case. Yeah. Especially the high-speed internet. It's one of the model, right? If you see the Chinese news, there's a lot of discussions about the ranking of the internet speed. Okay, where China mainland is climbing up on the ranking list, but still not that advanced, right? But Singapore is the idle model.
Okay, thanks. Okay, we have another question. Okay, I'll take this one. Is the lack of domain knowledge and applications development one of the key hindrances to IoT deployment takeoff, especially in some of the vertical markets, retail and logistics? So having some deep knowledge of certain sectors, is that actually a barrier to adoption?
Yeah, I think definitely. If you don't know what you're doing, then you cannot advance. Yeah, but
so the lack of knowledge is where among the suppliers,
right?
Where is it?
But if out there in the market, Singapore's economy is slowing down. Why? Because of the oil and gas market. I think it's not only Singapore, but it's everywhere in the world which is affected by oil and gas. But interestingly, some countries here in Southeast Asia, with our business, I'm personally just talking about the business that we are in the automation industry. We are seeing some countries which I would have thought would have been affected by oil and gas, but they were not. They were growing by 10%, 15% even. And I'm like, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing differently than us? And interestingly, they have OEMs which are responsible for logistics. Logistics solutions which transport one material to the other, to another. It can be a truck system. It can be a very intelligent conveyor system. But having this know-how in these countries have helped them tremendously outgrow or outbeat what the market was throwing to them. For example, the oil and gas crisis, for example. So having that particular knowledge, I think, is very advantageous, not only to the industry itself, but also to the benefit of the country. Yeah.
Okay. Casey, within Yokogawa, do you try and stress that gaining that domain knowledge in various sectors?
If we don't have any knowledge about domain, of course, we're not gonna have this process in business, of course. And one of a good example of that is, even in this downturn of oil and gas pricing, those petrochems, these guys importing lots of oil and gas as a input. So they are gaining just low price as a enjoying for a lower pricing material. So that's kind of a advantage for them, and then we can help them to implement IoT at this moment because we know their process and their concerns out there. So.
I'm sure within Microsoft this is probably something which you've already tackled, or which you have many domain experts.
Yeah, actually, that's almost similar as my question I gave to the panelists in this morning for the data analytics. The point I issued the question this morning is we actually made a lot of difficulties on this area, because if you see the IT person, I'm an IT person, right? I kind of have the knowledge to know, okay, what is machine learning, what is the data analytics, those algorithms. But I don't have any domain knowledge. For example, if we go to automation, like Siemens, like if we go to the NTT, like telecom, I have no dominant knowledge on that area. And if the experience I visit those partners, they have those domain areas, but they have zero knowledge about what is machine learning. Okay, what is advanced data analytics technologies, really cutting edge, and how to use cloud. Wow, there's a huge gap between those traditional industry and the IT industry, and it's so difficult for now. I mean, if you are a manager, if you are CEO of a startup company, you want to do IoT business, it's so difficult to find a person on the market has cross-domain knowledges on both areas. So I'm personally, because I'm an engineering person, so I'm looking at this issue as a #1 challenge issue to make IoT really successful in almost any vertical area. Seriously.
Okay, thanks. Okay, this is an interesting question. What do you think will be the first killer app for IoT? So I guess what the questioner is saying is, if we had a really good killer app, this would help deployment. People would look at this and say, I want to do this as well. Is there such a thing as a great killer app for IoT? Anybody?
If I would tell you, I will have to kill you. A killer app. Something that comes to mind, maybe, the point is that Internet of Things encompass a lot. It's not only on the industry. Industry is very serious on Internet of Things, definitely, because it helps their bottom line. But my son is a 6-year-old, and he's already asking me about Arduino. Arduino, Raspberry Pi. He was talking to me like, "Hey, Dad, what do you think about this? Can I basically, can you buy this for me, and then I will have to try it out?" And he's a 6-year-old. I said, no, engineering is not for you. You should be a doctor. But that's for another discussion with the wife. Yeah, but a killer app. What comes to mind is probably anything that is consumer-based. I was just thinking right now at the top of my head, if you can make Tamagotchi, a real Tamagotchi app, that if you feed that pet, it also feeds the live pet, if it grows an inch taller, then on your iPhone, probably you can also measure an inch taller. Hey, a Tamagotchi in real life. Maybe that's a killer app. If you do that, if you develop this app, call me. I need to collect royalty from you.
Okay.
I have no idea. Sorry. No, I like Tamagotchi. No.
Yes, it's a bit of a tough question. But perhaps if we look forward, say 4 or 5 years, 2020, 2021, can you foresee any new grand challenges to IoT deployment beyond what we've identified so far? I'm thinking of things like disruptive impact of perhaps newer technologies, possible customer fatigue as the IoT, so-called IoT hype fades, perhaps disappointing results of pilot projects, a major cybersecurity incident. Do you think there could be challenges like that which could even slow down deployment? Anyone want to take that?
Yeah, okay, sure. No, I don't actually. I don't think so. Let's, for example, when we talk about mobile is such an important industry, but maybe, for example, mobile phone will be phased out someday. Maybe replaced by VR, like AR, maybe it's more cool today. Maybe, but the market is still there. The mobile market is still there. So my personal opinion of the IoT is such a market, right? The needs, the business needs, the personal needs always there. The only difference in the long term, 3 or 5 years, is only how the new technology applies to the industry, right? Okay, so I can give you a few examples. For example, the low power WAN, okay, which allows you to install extremely cheap, battery powered, even zero powered sensors into your field, into your home. It will basically change the way how you use the sensor, your equipment, right? There will be a lot of disruptive new technologies that's coming to us. Will eventually change the way we use IoT, we use equipment. But the needs is simply there. It will never change. Since we are human, right? We always use our home automation. We always use mobile communication. We always use lighting, for example. The only difference is how the new technology will change the way we use them. But the requirements is always there, right? Okay.
Casey, I mean, maybe something around privacy, for example. I mean, we had the Apple U.S. government fight recently. Could something like that, affect sentiment towards IoT?
Well, I would say not really for IIoT, but IIoT handles raw data of manufacturing, which is an intellectual property type of thing, and need to be protected, of course. But to maximize the effect of IIoT, you have to virtually connect all the data from the field, not only from the plant, but from the Tamagotchi and refrigerator and everything together and mash up a application, right? In that sense, we need to have some new idea to represent, what's operating level of the plant is, like that. It's kind of a substituted data, not directly use the raw data, but the substituted or summarized data from the industry can be applied to a socialized application. That way we can maximize the IoT effectiveness, right? So some sort of new concept of a security has to be there. So that will be a next step of a discussion need to be done in the future.
Challenges for the next 4 to 5 years. I think constantly, and it has happened already. It happened already. It is happening, and it will still be happening. Would be security. Security, as long as we have interconnectivity of all things, which is the IoT, Internet of Things, interconnectivity of all things, there will always be a security issue. And as we progress into this technology of IoT, the security itself, the security technology will also need to progress at the same pace or even better than the IoT, because it is an essential part of the IoT. And second thing would be safety. I don't think safety has been disregarded. Has been disregarded in this technology. If you have Internet of Things, you must also consider the safety feature of that device that you are doing. Safety has to be incorporated into that device. Having standards for safety must be there. I think in the next few years, we will be seeing some regulations on IoT. And what has to be there, what is the minimum that has to be there, and etc. And lastly, I think that we are seeing a trend that if there is an Internet of Things in this particular layer, which production, smart city, all the operational data will be operating in this Internet of Things, there should be also a layer which is dedicated for service. Internet of Service. If there is an Internet of Things, there should be an Internet or interconnectivity of service. Meaning, if your IoT device needs to be serviced or is requesting for maintenance or service or just replenishing an ink cartridge, for example, this doesn't have to be riding on that same layer for your Internet of Things, which you are using for production, for your operation. It has to be on a separate layer dedicated just for service. So I think that in the next 4 to 5 years, Internet of Service will also be a buzzword together with Internet of Things.
Internet of Service. Okay.
Internet of Service.
Service. Okay. Remember that, Internet of Service.
Yeah, I didn't come up with that word. It's
We have
Under your license?
iOS Asia.
Copyright, Jory Guzman. Okay, I think we're just about out of time. I think we really appreciate everyone staying so late on a Wednesday evening. I think it's great. So if I could just summarize, I think if I compare this event to 2 years ago, it's only 2 years ago since we had the first IoT Asia, a lot of the conversations there were about, what is IoT? What does it mean? And this is how many devices we're going to have by 2030, 50 billion, 25 billion, which I've always thought is not very useful to, information. But I think now if you look at the conversations, the fact we're having a conversation about deployment is a very positive thing. And certainly there are challenges that we've talked about, that we've identified, but it sounds like they're not going to be fatal. It sounds like we can overcome a lot of these challenges. Challenges like security, challenges like how to correctly capture all the benefits of IoT, how to navigate around the organization issues of IT versus OT, the people in the organization, and of course things on a larger scale of the lack of infrastructure in some of the more developing countries and how critical that is to further deployment of IoT. So generally, I think you would agree it's a pretty positive picture when we talk about IoT. And once we've navigated these challenges, I think things will continue to be good as we go forward. So unless the panel has anything else to say or wants to put any last words, then I'll thank Ling Chen and Casey and Jory Guzman for their very valuable insights, and I hope you've got something out of this panel session. I'm sure they'll be happy to talk to you straight after this if you'd like to. And so your reward for staying this late is the cocktails outside. So please enjoy that, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.